Hey there, my name is Phil Tenaya. I'm a school psychologist and a psychological flexibility expert, and I wanted to shoot a short video. This is about a video that you can use to help parents and families that are, we're all struggling under the pandemic stuff. And if you're an educator or somebody and you want to send some stuff home, some resources, some tools for parents and families. This is a really quick way to do it. Doesn't require a whole lot of extra work or a whole lot of downloading of stuff. It's just a little simple diagram and a few words, and I'll show you how you do it. But before I show you how you do it, it's really, really simple, and you don't even have to put it online. Like I said, you can really just kind of have a piece of paper like this. I put this on a whiteboard with this diagram, and you're going to use it to invite your parents and families to have conversations. And this is the way I suggest that you have the conversation. So I'm going to bring up, I have a sharing of my screen now. So I'm going to show you from my iPad. I'm using something called Notability and my Apple Pen to show this to you. And we're going to go from there. Oh, hold on. Okay, there we go. That was my screen share. So you would have this piece of paper. You could send it home with the diagram and the questions on it. But basically, the way that I do it is I would say, hey, let me show you a point of view. And you could do this as a parent. You could do this one-on-one with a student. You can do this together with your child. You can just do it for yourself. It's kind of like a mental health loop. And I call it the psychological flexibility loop. And it is the ACT matrix, which was developed by Dr. Kevin Polk. And ACT stands for Acceptance and Commitment Therapy and Training. And really, this is training. It's training, helping promote flexibility, mental health, coming together. So the way it starts, really simple, is you just kind of send this home. You can show it to them. They can do it on their own. And the first question I ask everybody is, who's important to you? And then you would just recommend that they jot down whoever it is that's important to them. As soon as you ask somebody the question, who's important to you, someone's going to come to mind. So I'll use myself. So for me, the first thing that comes to mind is my wife and my children, and could be family. It could be your students. And I just write it down. Whatever anybody says, just write it down. Family pet, or the family pet is. And you just start right there with that conversation. Very engaging way to begin. And then the next thing you're going to ask is, hey, what kind of yucky stuff shows up inside of you sometimes? And I always try to use the example of fear. So I might say, fear might show up inside of you sometimes. You don't want it and it shows up anyhow. So what kind of yucky stuff like fear shows up? And then people will start to share. And could be anger. People could be feeling sad. People could be feeling frustrated. And I'm just writing it down, and they could just write it down just like that, right on the diagram. Then we're going to come up here and we're going to ask this question. Well, when that yucky stuff shows up, what might you do to move away from it? What might I see you do? And this is like being action. So fear shows up, the big thing that we all do for fear. Fear shows up, and the first thing we get this urge to do is to run. For anger, we might do something like, very popular thing to do for anger would be to yell, to move away from your uncomfortable feeling of anger. Sadness, somebody might cry. Someone's frustrated, they could maybe leave, put their head down, something like that. And this is exactly the responses that you're going to get. So, you kind of imagine you've got parents and kids kind of sitting around doing this and having this conversation. So now we keep going, and now we're going to say, hey, what can you do to move toward those important people down there that you just mentioned or we just mentioned? So for my wife, I could go and talk to my wife. I could give her a hug. For my children, we could watch Netflix, which is something that we're all doing a lot of these days. Watch Netflix. There you go. And also other things for the family. Uh, Students, show up online, send your students a funny text message or, an article or something. Pet, take the pet for a walk, go for a walk with the pet, or really just play with the pet. Let's just do that, right? So now we've done that. What we've have done here is we've just been doing this very cool thing. And I would say this to them is what you're doing is you've just been noticing. And you've been noticing about who's important to you. We have been noticing about yucky stuff, been noticing about things that we do to move away from yucky stuff, and also stuff that you want to do to move toward who and what is important to you. And, you might have an opportunity to notice that stuff as we go through our day and go through our week. What do you think? Just kind of leave it like that. So now I want to show you, we just did a loop, right? We started a loop here. We did 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can do it any way you want, but this is probably the way that I like to train people because it's like a nice, neat little loop. And you show them the diagram, and now they kind of know how it works. So now we could add to that, and now we do what I would call a family matrix. So now everybody's kind of gathered together. Imagine you're gathered together and you're looking at this sheet of paper with the questions on it. And the first question over here is, what's our shared purpose? What are we here to do? So with the family, what's the shared purpose of our family, right? And people are going to start to weigh in on that. So shared purpose of a family, we love each other, we care about each other, we want to have peace in the family. I hear that a lot, peace in the family, very important. And people will start to share stuff like that, young and old alike. And, we could be there for something, could be a family meeting, whatever we're here to do. Could just be there just to have a conversation, just to sit down and have a meal together or something like that. I add these other two questions, which is, how do we want to be treated in this family? So in other words, everybody gets a chance to say, I want to be treated with, well, here's a big one, RESPECT, right? We all want that, right? We all want to be treated with respect. We also can ask the question, well, how do we want to treat others, right? So the first question is about me. The other one's like about us. How are we going to treat our members of our family? How are we all going to work together for this shared purpose? And the shared purpose conversation is a really important conversation to have. And we usually don't have conversations like that. So once you start having families talk about the shared purposes and what they're there to do and what they're all about, it really helps to pull things together for them. Now, we're not done there because now you can go over here and you can talk about, well, sometimes yucky stuff shows up when we're trying to move toward those shared purposes. Very similar to the first loop. So, fear could show up, jealousy could show up, stuff like that. They're going to say stuff like this. Anger could be showing up, frustration, and we're just jotting it down. And actually, people can be jotting it down on their own. Everybody can be kind of jotting it down together. There's no reason why you couldn't have it be a collaborative thing where everybody's kind of weighing in and writing stuff down. So then you're going to say, all right, so when that yucky stuff shows up, what might we see one of us doing that we, doesn't have to happen, but what might happen if someone has the fear show up inside of them? What might they do? Okay, well, they, again, did the run thing, right? It might run, it might leave. Anger shows up, we might find people arguing to move away from that uncomfortable feeling of, anger. And these are just things that people do, folks. This is not like a good or a bad thing. It's just that people do. We all argue sometimes. We run away from fearful stuff. We get frustrated, and maybe we want to throw something down or walk away from the frustration feeling. This is just stuff that all of us do as humans, and we're just noticing it. We're just sitting here and talking about possibilities here. So now we're going to come over here. Last one is going to be, well, what can we do to move toward those shared purposes that we just talked about over here? And the basic thing is going to be communicate, right? So we're going to communicate. And communication involves two things, right? It is talking and something that gets left out sometimes, which is the listening part. You got to be able to do both, go back and forth, right? And, the other thing might be, they might say you might want to share, right? Work together, figure out, divide up who's going to do what. So now we've just done what I call a second loop around the matrix, right? And that one we've done for everybody. So now us, we can be noticing our family matrix about what our shared purpose is, about what yucky stuff is that might show up that gets in the way of shared purpose, about things we might do to move away from yucky stuff, as well as things that we can do to keep moving toward the shared purpose down here, and kind of take this yucky stuff with us and still be able to do things that are important. So there's a nice little activity that you can share with parents and families that would definitely help them to have some very interesting conversations at home. And I think that's it for now. I stop my share and hope that you find this interesting and useful. Take care.